It's a homicidal waffle maker that's possessed my brother and all our best customers.
How do we stop it?
I don't know. Didn't come with an instruction manual.
Haunted House of Pancakes, directed by Nathan Dalton, and this, of course, is a B-movie horror film about killer food products. Similar in a way to the movie Poultrygeist that I reviewed a little while ago. Maybe not quite as over the top as Poultrygeist, it must be said, but a similar concept. So the story focuses on this diner where the owner buys this antique waffle maker from like an eBay style site, and what he doesn't know, this waffle maker is actually a possessed item that causes the cook, for example, to initially become possessed, and various food products to come alive and attack customers. And it's up to our sort of waiter and a customer to try and fend off waves of killer food products and affected customers. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss. Now, this is clearly a low budget movie. I believe it was funded on Indiegogo, and you know, expectations have to be in place. Now, a film like this is somewhat review proof to a degree, because you can't really turn around and say, oh, the acting from Haunted House of Pancakes wasn't really quite on par, because it's clearly not trying to be a serious movie. But nonetheless, we will try and do a review. So let's talk about, obviously, the positives first of all. Now, in a film like this, you're either going to like a silly concept or you're not. So, assuming that you do like a kind of silly concept like this, you know, there is some fun to be had here. The idea that there's a variety of different food products kind of attacking these customers in a variety of different ways and all becoming quite monstrous, you know, is lots of fun and quite inventive, it must be said. I mean, we have like, you know, packets of fries becoming like kind of spiders and crabs and things like this. We have salads becoming killer plants. We've got rotisserie chickens killing people. And then eventually we get these possessed people come like human-sized kind of monsters and things like that. So there's a variety of goofy fun to be had here. I think our protagonists are quite likeable, particularly our waiter. And you know, his brother is the kind of the possessed cook. So we have a little bit of a, you know, brotherly conflict, so to speak, where ends up being brother versus brother. So that is quite fun. And there's a little bit of like fun commentary on the food and service industry. A little bit, you know, a few jokes here and there based on that. And the movie obviously is a horror comedy, and it has this kind of lighter tone and sort of goofier elements in there. So the effects are kind of rudimentary, but they are still quite enjoyable. Again, if you don't mind B-movies, then you'll kind of like this, because obviously it's all about the silly spectacle of what's kind of going on. And clearly on such a low budget, they've had to be kind of quite inventive, and there's a large variety in different kind of food products that are attacking people, which is sort of always sort of quite fun. And most of it's achieved practically by the looks of it. It looks like there's a few sorts of digital enhancements and things like that, and a few, you know, cheaper CGI bits, but a large portion of it is actually produced sort of practically. And you know, we've joked about the acting, but you know, I've got to say I didn't think it was terrible. You know, for a movie like this, obviously it's the tongue is in the cheek, but nonetheless, the characters, they got across what they're meant to, and they're kind of still played relatively straight, and but has that sort of a sillier, goofy element that I think kind of works. So the movie does have this sort of enjoyable factor. Where this movie maybe doesn't work, it's not as strong as Poultrygeist, which I think did this kind of thing a little better. Granted, there's not a huge catalogue of killer food movies. There is a few, but maybe not all that many. But yes, the Poultrygeist obviously was probably the most famous of these, and maybe, as I say, goes one step further in its kind of craziness. Maybe where this movie didn't really go that far is in the gore. Now, obviously, it's a little bit gory, but it never really that much. And I think when you have such a bananas concept as this kind of killer pancakes and the rest of it, you know, you're not going to get too many casuals watching it. So you can probably afford to go a little bit more splattery. Maybe it was a budgetary issue, but ultimately it's a little bit sort of on the milder side in regards to the gore. The effects as well, fun as they are, they look quite rudimentary. And a lot of the cases where the food is actually attacking people, it's more or less just actors holding like a foam burger up to their face and going, ah, and things like this. And just kind of like holding things and wobbling the kind of prop around and stuff like that. So it's quite sort of, you know, basic in regards to its technical abilities. And this, you know, you might say this is maybe being a little nitpicky for the movie that it is. You're kind of like wondering how things actually happen, because I would have assumed whilst watching this it would have just been pancakes that were, or these waffles that were possessed, but it seems to be everything, and it's like, how are the mechanics working? Again, I appreciate the kind of the movie we're talking about here, but it just seems to be like, and again, that might not matter to some. And the other thing is as well, of course, the tone of this movie is very silly. Not everyone's gonna be interested in a film like this. It is very, very silly. You know, some might just see it as stupid, a silly concept, and that's going to be more of a tasting than a level of critique, so to speak. I do think though that the movie slows down in a few places where I think it didn't have quite as high energy as you might expect. You know, and there's just times where you think, okay, let's get a kind of little bit of a move on. It's not a long film by any stretch, but even so, sometimes I just felt the concept was a little bit, needed to have a little bit more punch in it. Overall, it's a fine B movie. It's a lot of fun if you don't mind the silly concept. Clearly somewhat affected by a low budget. Watchable, but not a classic. It's a 5 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? What were your thoughts? Please do leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.